All right. We are getting ready to do the broadcast right now. If you've had a chance to see the Steamship Arabia Museum in downtown KC, it is a marvelous place. David Hawley, one of the guys who, when did you start that, by the way? When did you decide to pursue the Steamship Arabia? Because it was madness at one point, right?
Yeah. Well, it was, as most things do in life, sometimes you just find a way through the back door into something and not really realizing you have entered into a whole new phase of something that will take a much longer part of your life. So, this was to be a hobby. It was never to be a museum. It was, let's go dig a boat. How much trouble can we be? It'll be great fun. It won't cost very much. We'll find some things. We'll sell a few things. Then we'll go back to work, and it'll all be a happy memory. But
hold on, I've got a child downstairs making noise. Avery, and we got 3 dogs. David, welcome to the chaos of a home studio. Avery, hold on one second. I apologize. My son is making. Tell Will to be quiet, please, downstairs. Tell him to be quiet. Thank you very much. That's my daughter, Avery, David, by the way. And I'm giving you the fan, by the way, the cool fan. All right. So anyway, so you decided out. Were you inspired by anybody else? Were you when you decided to go after the Steamship Arabia?
Yeah.
And I know your brother was involved, and God bless him.
Yep.
I know he passed.
Yep.
2009, right?
Yep.
Why? Of all the things you could do in your life, you have a refrigeration company.
We fixed air conditioners.
You fixed air conditioners.
Furnace.
Could you look at mine real quick?
I could.
But out of nowhere, you decide that you're going to pursue this venture of something that you knew was under a cornfield. This is pretty wild because I've been following archaeology since I was a kid. All of particularly the Caribbean area, all of the Spanish galleons and all that. But there were galleons, not necessarily, they're more archaeology galleons than golden coin galleons that were traveling up and down the awful Missouri River.
Yeah.
Which was terrible to go up, but great coming back. Right.
Well, a lot of them sank coming home too. It was
really?
dangerous. Yeah. It was a dangerous trip.
No, going up was good, coming back was bad, right?
No, it was dangerous going up and coming back.
Okay, all right. Missouri River's terrible.
It gets you no matter where you're at.
And it's narrower, and it has a lot of trees and stuff that the Mississippi you might not experience as much because it's a broader, deeper river, right?
The Mississippi is a broader river. It's not as fast a river. The fall rate, the fall rate from the Continental Divide,
Gotcha.
is very steep. So coming down from the mountains to St. Louis, where the Missouri meets the Mississippi, that would be like the same thing as tilting your table up and pouring water on it and watching it run really fast.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So for every mile between, Denver, it's the Mile High City, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there you go. So from the Rocky Mountains, as you come east, that ground drops. And the faster it drops, the faster that river runs down the hill. Wow. And so the soil along the banks of the Missouri River is what they call alluvial. It's been washed in from the high plains.
Okay.
And so it's a lot of sand, it's a lot of silt, it's not very stable. And so now as the trees grow up along the banks of the river, at some point the river washes under them and they fall into the river. And so all these trees have been sitting there now for, since time began.
Yeah.
And at the river's surface, where the water and the air meet, the tree rots. Now, it may take a lifetime for that to occur, but it will.
Yeah.
And so the tree that's under the water is still strong. It's hidden from sight. The Missouri's kind of a cloudy, we say dirty, but it's not dirty, but it's cloudy. Yeah. And you can't see it. And the steamboats would run into them, poke a hole, and they would sink.
What the amazing thing that I've been to your museum a couple times. I didn't realize that you guys actually found the tree that sunk the Arabia.
Still sticking in the boat.
What the heck? That's insane.
Yeah, sticking. It was a walnut tree. So big you couldn't put your arm around.
Well, I saw the thing there, and so it pierced the wooden hull. These are wooden hull boats. Yeah. And when these wooden hull boats experienced a breach like that, you're going down.
Pretty quick.
Going down quickly. When you saw, did you see the front of the boat with the hull?
Yeah.
So it was as big as and it probably busted up some lumber too, right?
Yeah. It came through the front left side, about 10 feet back from the front, 15 feet back from the front.
Wow.
And you don't see it for a while, but I was inside of the boat taking out some artifacts, and then all of a sudden, as you wash more mud away, here's this tree.
Unbelievable.
And I thought, why are they shipping a tree to the frontier? Well, they weren't. It was, as you wash more mud, then you figure out, oh my gosh, it's sticking through the boat.
And by the way, Andre, I want to thank you for watching. Ryan, also thank you for watching. Paul as well. You guys are joining the conversation. Please share on social media as we progress here. We're talking to David Hawley. He has done the Steamship Arabia Museum, which... Let me ask you this, David, because, and by the way, the views are growing dramatically as we progress here, and we'll also have this video available on your social media and my Facebook and social media. So you dig this pit after you find, and you've done core samples, and you found the outline of the Arabia, and I want to get to your next dig in a second. And you dig how deep in that thing? 45 feet?
Yeah, boat's down 45 feet from the surface to the bottom of the boat.
And then you are in a water table area where the water table is higher than where the boat is.
Yeah.
So as soon as you dig, it fills up. And I've been there. I worked along the Missouri River. You dig a hole 10 feet deep, it's going to fill with water.
Yeah. Well, it's like being at the beach. You come to the beach, you come back a little bit, and you dig a hole down in the sand. What do you hit? You hit water.
Yeah.
And the faster you dig, the faster the sand slides in, and the water, you cannot go beyond that. So you've got to de-water. We put 20 wells all the way around. We drilled 20 holes that went to bedrock, 70 feet. The hole was 3 feet wide, 70 feet deep. We put big pumps in the bottom of each. And we pumped 20,000 gallons of water per minute, 24 hours a day for 4 months.
20,000 gallons a minute?
A minute.
And you were pumping it right back into the Missouri?
Yep.
How far was the Missouri from where the ship originally sank in the Missouri?
From where the boat lay,
yeah,
to where the side of the river was a half a mile. The river moved a half a mile in 20 years.
Now, was this? I noticed that the Army Corps of Engineer has caused the change in the channel, but a lot of the channel changing is natural.
A lot of it's natural. Where the Arabia was, it was natural.
It was natural. Okay, all right. So this ship went down. How long do you suppose it took for the channel to change to where the Arabia was so covered with silt it just became farmland and they started growing crops over it?
Within 20 years.
Wow.
But from the time that the boat sank until it was out of sight and gone beyond reach was days. The bottom of the river is really soft. Now, that river is powerful. If anybody's ever stood on the bank of the Missouri and looked out at it, you'll see the boiling river and the turmoil and all of the power that river has. So now you take a boat that's 170 feet and you stick it out in that water. That water can't go over it, can't go around it, so it goes under. And that soft silt gets washed away. So now it's going down like into quicksand. It's being pulled by the weight of the boat and the fierce cutting of the river. It washes under, and within days, it's gone. The boat sank on a Friday evening at dinner time. In September, that would be what? It gets dark by 7:30, 8 o'clock, I'm thinking. So, let's say 5 o'clock-ish, the boat hits and it's down. They spent the daylight hours saving those passengers and crew. 150 people were rescued. There was no light left of daylight to save anything. So the plan was to come back bright and early Saturday morning and begin the rescue. So they assembled on the bank as the sun came up, and all they could see was the 2 smokestacks.
Oh, dear Lord.
And the roof of the pilot house.
Now,
everything else is gone.
Only one living victim.
Correct.
The donkey.
Yeah.
And you found the carcass. You found the bones. You found the bones.
Yeah. As we washed.
Poor animal.
Well, we felt bad as we washed.
Yeah.
We didn't know what it was. We thought, we're looking at, as the water washed the sand away, we saw 4 bones sticking up. They look like rib bones.
Yeah.
And people often didn't get off these boats.
Yeah.
This was a dangerous thing when they sank. So we washed really slow, and then across the bones we'd find this leather strap. It came up and crossed over and disappeared. We followed the strap. It turned into a stirrup, and then into a saddle with bigger bones.
Wow.
And then the head, the bridle still around it. The bit was in its teeth, and it was tied to a sawmill. And when we got back and looked at it, it looked to us like a horse with a saddle on its back, and it died because the guy didn't cut the reins with it really bad.
Oh, that stinks.
So we thought, we got to name him. Got to call him something.
Yeah.
So we thought for a couple of days, and we decided we'd call him Lawrence. So this is Lawrence of
Arabia, of course.
Of course it is.
I love it. So you go, and like I said, I want to focus also on the new dig because I'm fascinated. But at the same time, I've had you in my studio when I was in terrestrial radio, and I hope you don't feel like I'm an archaeological stalker. No. I'm just so terribly interested in this. And part of this has to do with, and I told you this before, I grew up in Southwest Iowa, and I remember the first time I saw the Bertrand Museum, and it was a 6th grade field trip, and I was like, oh my God. And the Bertrand is fantastic, and it's the same thing. It's as if you sunk a Bed Bath and Beyond or a Walmart in 18 whatever, and it's incredible. Let me ask you this, because I follow archaeology around the world, and I know that there are different, like in Norway, there's a marvelous ship that sunk on its, and I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Vasa?
Yes, the Vasa.
Stockholm, Sweden.
The Vasa. The Vasa was this magnificent ship, and it was almost as bad as the Titanic at the time because it was this marvelously carved, brilliant ship.
Warship.
Yes. And the thing is, they were heading out of the bay in Stockholm, and it was struck by a strong wind, and they had the cannon doors open because it was going to be a glorious launch of the ship, and it tilted, and it flooded, and it sank, and they found it 400 plus years later, basically perfectly preserved because of the lack of oxygen in the cold water.
Yeah, but what happened was the king came to look. It was a warship, and he said, we need more cannons. And so the architect said, oh, we'll build it higher and taller and with more, and they did. And the king came and says, we need more cannons.
Yeah.
And so at some point it got so heavy, top heavy, that when it got out into the harbor, the weight of the cannons and the top heaviness of what the king had asked for toppled over and sank.
It was like the 16th century version of the first generation of Ford Explorers. Yeah. It was kind of like that.
It's kind of like that.
But it's interesting, you know that. But at the same time, there are things that cause things to be preserved. When it came to the Vasa, you were cold water, mud, lack of oxygen.
Correct.
Similar situation, not as cold, certainly, but similar lack of oxygen, sunlight, etc. when it comes to the steamships being buried 45 feet down under cornfields. Tell me about that.
Yeah. It's called an anaerobic environment, one without oxygen. And you take all things in our world today that you look at and say, oh my gosh, that will be gone in a few years. But you take the oxygen away. We found barrels still filled with butter that still smelled fresh.
And by the way, also, you had some pickles.
Yep, jars of pickles.
Did you taste the pickles?
I did not. I don't like them, so I wasn't going to have one. Jerry, though.
Butter, too? Butter?
Yeah, we had butter. Jerry, one of our guys, he said, I'll eat a pickle. Really, Jerry? Yep. He says, I'll eat the pickle. They look okay, and they did. Brilliantly colored through the jar.
I thought they looked great.
Uncorks this thing, pulls the pickle out. Looked at that pickle a long time, smelled it, and ate it. And he'd say later, he says, it didn't crunch to eat it, but it wasn't soft or squishy, or it didn't taste weird. It was just like eating one from the store.
Wow.
We watched him a couple days.
I would be certain.
Coming back.
Yeah, and the same thing I noticed with the Bertrand Museum. They had a lot of the pickled items that were there. Now, you are working on a new dig. Tell me about this, because I started talking to you about this about a little over a year ago. There are 400 possible shipwrecks that are available. You've discovered how many? You know where they are.
11.
What is this one?
The one that we're working on now is one called the Malta.
Really?
Steamboat Malta. 1841, September, it sinks. Built in 1839 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was owned by and operated for the American Fur Company, a guy named Pierre Choteau Jr.
Choteau. I've heard Choteau on street names all over the place.
Yeah.
Choteau is a big name.
Auguste Choteau, his dad, at the age of 13, and his stepdad, Pierre Leclerc, come north from New Orleans, looking for a place, for a fur trade post and for military and for, to extend the realm of the French. And they look at this little place on the bank of the Mississippi and say, "Oh, what a great place for a fur trade post." And they get out, and Augusta, who now is 13, and the deckhands get out and begin to clear the brush. Pierre heads on back south again. He would have come back eventually. But their little fur trade post flourished and grew and grew and became the city of St. Louis that we know today.
Yeah. Whoa.
That's
where I've heard Shoto.
Yeah. Laclede's Landing.
Of course.
There you go. Pierre.
Wow.
That's the dad. That's
very
the
good.
stepdad.
Very good.
But the Shoto family remained in the fur trade business for generations. His son Pierre Jr. would take over the job from his dad eventually, and was the first of the Shoto family to use steamboats in the family business of the fur trade. The Malta was one of those. Okay. It was on its way north with supplies and struck a tree and sank so quickly that they had to cut a hole through the roof of the boat to rescue some of the passengers, some of those aboard.
Wow.
But all were saved, like in the case of the Arabia.
Miraculous. Yeah.
It was. And again, the river was fierce, and it was a scary, dangerous place. The guys got off, the boat remained. And over time, the river changed, as it always does. Yeah. And then map makers would come along years later and say, as we make these new maps, we'll call this bend of the river where the Malta went down, Malta Bend.
Okay.
Years went by, a town was settled nearby, and those who created the little town said, "What should we call our town? Oh, let's name it Malta Bend."
And at restaurants, they serve Malta meal.
There you go.
All right.
Malta Bend, Missouri is the only town I know of that was named for the steamboat that sank.
No kidding. Yeah. Now, I've talked to you this, and you talk to many people, so you probably, I don't know if you remember me or not, but I remember you said that when you do the core samples, and you're finding a ship, when you went to go for the Malta, that you were drilling core samples, and if it came up with hair and all that, it was returning from the trading post where they'd given them goods and they were returning with furs. Yeah. And if that's the case, it's worthless. You did rotten old furs underground.
Yeah. Well, we know what buffalo looked like pretty much, and so it would be interesting to dig it.
Yeah.
But the collection going north would be far more of interest, at least to me.
Of course, and it's full of stuff.
Yeah.
So when you did that core sample, and you're curious about this, what kind of things did you find?
Okay. So we've done our drilling. Okay. We found the boat. Magnetic survey has been located. It's in the Malta Bend area of the bend of the river, not the town, but the bend of the river where the map maker said it should be. Got a target. So we test drill down and hit wood at 37 feet.
Okay.
Deep, and hit it again at 37 feet. So we've now outlined our boat. Okay. So we've test drilled now 50 or 60 times. We've defined the front, the back, and the sides.
Gotcha.
Got it marked out.
Gotcha.
Okay. So now we're saying, which is the front? If the front is the southeast corner, it's heading home with furs. If the front is the northwest corner,
yes,
it's heading north with goodies.
Gotcha.
Okay. And just as you were saying, you test drill down with a core sampling rig, a drill, and bring up furs, it's off to the next boat, as far as I'm concerned. So down we go, and as we hit that 37-foot level, the highest part of the boat that we have found thus far, you can feel the drill engage, and it cuts, and it's heavy, and it's hard to get through. But once it cuts through an inch or so later, the drill goes quicker and easier now. So we know we're down inside. We go 3 more feet. We're now down to 40, and we stop, and we capture, and we bring it to the surface. And I'm telling you, that was a long trip up because it changes the direction of what we do next. But when it came to the surface, there was no fur. We found 150 gold buttons.
Okay, you brought some stuff. Oh, okay. Share this with people on Facebook. We've got a couple hundred folks online right now, and it's growing as we go.
The unveiling.
Now, this is fascinating to me because you spent so much time preserving everything with regard to the Arabia. That piece of the hull, you had to nurse that for 3 years before it stabilized. You had to nurse that thing. Oh, my God. This is fantastic. We're going to see Steamboat Malta.
Yeah.
Archaeological. I'm like, this is like King Tut's tomb to me, brother.
These buttons have been hidden for 175 years.
Share this on social media right now.
They sank.
Share this on social media. This has been underwater, under dirt, under mud, 175 years.
Since 1841.
Oh, my Lord.
Think of all the history that has gone on in this country since 1841. They came from, we best guess, from Birmingham, England. We could not make these in this country at this point.
Okay.
They were shipped from overseas.
Wow.
Going north. But for what purpose? I don't know.
Now, did you find some of these when you bore down originally?
This was that core sample.
Oh.
They're gold. Now look at the, not solid gold. They're built on a copper base, but then covered with gold. Now, when you see orange, warranted, the rich stood for, they were like good, better, best. Okay, rich would say this is the best that we make. Orange was the color of the finish, in this case, gold. And then warranted was like the good housekeeping seal of approval that said these were really good quality.
These, pardon me, and I got off mic. What were these used for? Whose buttons were these, by the way? I'm kind of curious about it.
I know. Aren't we all?
Yeah.
Because they could have been anything. There are some of the Indians that wore these on their coats. There was a chief named, he had a big red coat. Chief David, I think. And I remember seeing pictures with buttons like this. But then again, you look at some of the pictures of George Washington and some of those guys, and these were the buttons that are like similar to that they had.
These weren't layman's buttons.
No.
These weren't the buttons that you buttoned up your whatever and you went out and
everyday
worked.
Folks. No, these were not for
these were
folks.
And they're gosh,
they're
darn
heavy and they're gold.
Yeah.
And they are incredibly well. They've never been used.
Look at this.
They've never been used.
Wow. How many did you find?
150.
150, and you got them all right here too.
Pretty much. There's a few left at the.
And these you're not so worried about because they have lasted.
Gold is very stable.
Gold isn't going to get eaten alive by rust.
No.
Gold doesn't rust.
No.
There are a lot of metals that don't rust. Aluminum don't rust.
Yeah, the gold will be fine.
Oh my gosh, these are fantastic.
And now remember, this is just one sample. I mean, what was the box like that sat next to it?
Yes.
Or the one underneath it? How many do these?
How far into the dig are you, man? How far?
We haven't even started. We done a sample.
This is what you got without just a little sample.
Have you ever seen that TV show called Oak Island?
Oh, I know about Oak Island. When you below the oak tree and they level after level after level after level.
The pirates dug the thing.
I've been following that since I was in 4th grade. You have no idea, David.
You're seeing more on this table than they found in all the series of Oak Island all put together.
I think you and I are kindred spirits because I remember growing up, the first book I read. Are you ready for this? The first real book that I read. I was in 5th grade, and I read A Night to Remember. That was the Titanic book.
Yeah,
and I was fascinated by Oak Island, and they kept drilling down, and it would fill with water.
Yeah,
and it would drill down, and they'd fill with water, and all this. So I don't know what's available at Oak Island, but you have some similar things going down. You're going down. You're going through wood. You're like, what's here? Oh, we got some whatever. Then we're going down a little further. You're not drilling as deep as Oak Island. Oak Island went down a couple 100 feet, right?
It goes way down. I don't know how far down they are, but they never find anything.
No, and that's why I think that's a fool's errand. What you're doing is not a fool's errand.
One can only hope.
Yeah. Okay. So I talked to you. Oh God, I want to see this. This is so fantastic.
Now this is all again out of one sample.
Oh, what did you get?
Ceramics.
Oh, now tell our listeners or our viewers the ceramics you found with the Steamship Arabia. They were European made, right? For those who don't know what they're all about, because they're beautiful. Yeah. And you had the heartbreaking things are obviously a lot of broken pieces. Yeah. But there were some intact, glorious pieces.
Most of them were fine. And that did not occur, in my opinion, during the wreck.
Okay.
It hits the tree and goes into the mud. It's a soft landing.
The years.
Think of all the things you get through the mail that are broken.
Yeah.
When they were shipping these things out of those warehouses, they're putting them on those steel wheel dollies and across the cobblestones and down to the river. This is, we believe, what that piece is, unbroken, that you're holding.
This is a pearl well pepper pot with slip decoration. The date 1820. Wow, the price is about $2,500.
Compare hold up the piece of pottery. Look at the design on.
Oh, that's exactly what it is.
Exact match.
That's exactly what it is. That is spectacular. Look at that. That's absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. This is amazing stuff.
Okay. Now you've got
this pottery going.
We got fabric, black and red wool. That's coarse. Like that's almost a weave like you would find in burlap. Burlap,
by the way,
blankets or whatever.
That you're sharing with me, honestly, David Hawley, Steamship Arabia Museum. I'm really honored you do this. I mean, this is because I'm a geek when it comes to archaeology. So this is, look at how perfectly preserved. Let me do the high def camera over here.
See it?
That is a perfectly preserved piece of burlap that was from 1841.
Black and red. Now that's often a very popular color.
And this is from the core sample that you did. This is a common fabric, so it could be anything. My God, that's in perfect condition. Yeah.
Now the drill will tear it apart. I mean, the drill is a destructive device.
Wow.
It goes down and it is not careful.
No.
But you've got to know. Now this is window glass, 2 thicknesses.
Oh.
It has the typical kind of bluish green shade that you'll find in old.
That's thin window glass. That's pretty thin stuff.
Yeah.
So this is how thin windows were back then. Interesting. The interesting thing that most people don't realize is that glass is liquid. And when you get these old windows in 1820, 1840 houses, they get to kind of get this kind of weird striation. They're still liquid.
Well, the striation comes from the manufacturing part, but they say as it sits on the end, it gets thicker at the bottom and thinner at the top. But we had people that come to the museum years ago with a micrometer, and they measured hundreds of pieces of our panels of glass, and from the top to the bottom and the left to the right, they were the same.
Really?
Uh-huh. And they sat without moving for 132 years.
It may be a wives' tale.
It might be.
Might be a wives' tale.
I've heard that glass, but I'm looking at it and it doesn't look like a liquid.
Listen, you know so much more than I do. Rhonda, hello and welcome. Paula, thank you for watching. We greatly appreciate this. We're talking to David Hawley, the cornfield Indiana Jones, with regard to the Steamship Arabia. I remember talking to you when you originally said you were drawing the core samples, and I think it was last fall. You said we needed to have a window of opportunity to really open this thing up. Sounds like you haven't had that opportunity yet. You haven't initially dug out the big.
No,
not yet. Okay,
no. All right. Still working through the permits. And anything in life these days, you got to get a permit from the state.
Dear God, you're in a cornfield. Can you not go out and dig a hole?
One thing, but no. The short answer to that is no.
Really?
Yeah, you got to get permits from the state. Okay? Then you got to get your EPA and the Corps of Engineers. You got to visit with all of those folks, and that's kind of where we're at.
What about the landowners?
Jim's
are they cool about it? Are they cool about it?
Oh yeah.
They've got to be cool about it. Are they kind of, I'm going to imagine they're kind of thrilled about it, right?
Nice folks, yeah. Jim and Janice, they're excited. His dad bought the farm long ago in the 1940s.
Not literally bought the farm. He
owned the farm.
Yeah,
purchased the farm.
Not like the traditional bought the farm. Bought the farm means you die, but what I'm saying.
No, he did, and Jim grew out there as a kid. And they've known about the boat. The whole town has known about.
Oh, they've known about it.
Oh my gosh! They've known for generations that there was a steamboat Malta that sank there.
Really?
They know the heritage. They know where their namesake of their town came from.
No kidding.
Oh yeah, but they've never known for where it was. Now earlier this year, after the test drilling, after we got it all out, now we hadn't done this yet. This test drilling and not have recovered these, but we had the boat outlined on the farm, and then we invited the school and half the town came down to Jim's farm. There was 4 school buses got down there.
Wow.
And there seemed to be 100 kids and parents and so forth. And we had a really nice classroom experience. Talked about the boat and where it was. And then after I got done talking, they could answer questions and go out and walk on the outline of the boat. And now for the first time, those kids their parents have grown up not knowing.
Wow.
These kids will know. They know where that boat is.
This has got to be. So you are discovering a legend that has existed since 1841.
Yeah.
It's so darn cool. Okay. You've invested a hell of a lot of money in this. You've invested a hell of a lot of money in the Steamship Arabia.
Yep.
You had to convince a lot of people that this is worthwhile.
Not a lot.
Okay.
It was, well, is it worthwhile? Are there faster ways to retire earlier? Yes, there are.
Yes.
Is there a funner way? I don't think so. It was never really to be a money thing. It was never, did we kid about finding a box of gold? You bet we did.
Of course.
And what will you do with your share of the gold? Oh my gosh, the stories went on and on. Yeah. But no one had pre-ordered the Mercedes.
Yes,
okay?
exactly.
So down we go. We found this remarkable treasure, and we say we can't sell it. We got to keep it. We got to do a museum. And what was a hobby that wasn't supposed to cost very much ended up costing almost $1 million to dig it. That was money we had to go to the bank to borrow. So then we're saying we can't sell it. So now we need a building. So we find the building that we're at there in Kansas City, and we fix up this old place with more borrowed money, and we open up $1.5 million later.
My daughter getting a piece of bread. Thank you, dear. It's very professional of you. Go ahead. Sorry.
And so now we're in a lot of debt, and we eventually would pay it back from the admissions of people coming through. We've not had government money. We've not had, sold artifacts. It's just folks that have come over the years, and the Malta will be much the same.
What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do? Are you going to expand the museum?
We can't.
You can't. There's not enough room down there.
There's not. We're going to have to grow. We're going to have now. We'll be fine for a while, and the collection from the Malta will come to the Arabia building where we'll begin to clean and preserve it. But we're having to look around for something bigger, a place where we can grow to, because not only is there another Malta, there's other boats to be dug too.
There's 400, and you've discovered 11.
11.
Let me ask you this, because I watched. I've done a lot of research on your digs, dude. Sorry, I'm hanging out here with Stevie Ray Vaughan of archaeology. To me, with music, I'm fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by it. Man, you got to get down in the mud. You got to get down into a hole. You've got to see rusty, stinky, awful junk, and you open up crates and they're full of rotten boots, and you open up crates and they're full of needles and pins and all. There'd be a point that I'd be like, I grew up on a farm. I was knee-deep in bullcrap until I was 20 years old. And there's a point where you're like, I can't do this anymore. Did you and your brother and your family ever feel like, just cover this damn thing up?
No, we never did.
Okay.
We always felt like
it's hard work.
It is hard work, and it's winter work. And we're digging in the coldest days of winter.
Lord.
In what would splash on you and freeze almost immediately. It was a cold winter. Not like the winters we've had here in Kansas City for the last couple. This would seldom break 20 degrees in the heat of the day. At night, it was always 0 or below. We worked in the teens and the low 20s on most every day. And it was cold. Your fingers hurt at the end of the day, and you would slug that stuff and put it in boxes and bring it back home and arrive at 8:00. But your day wasn't over because
and then you had to clean it up. Okay, so
till midnight.
You get a box of whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe it's these gold buttons.
Yeah.
So you got to hose them off. You got to get rid of all that mud. You're not a professional archaeologist. You're not a professional. Originally, you were not a professional preserver.
I'm a heat and air conditioning guy.
I know. I got to share the story of where you stored the stuff from the Arabia, right next to the frozen hamburger. I'm not even sure.
Oh yeah, in the restaurant guys.
How did you learn this? How did you? It was kind of like what I've done with home improvement, what I've done with cooking. YouTube, my own, self-exploration. But you did this with archaeology.
Yeah, and before the internet, so there was no Google and stuff then.
Wow.
So the plan was to dig in the winter.
Yeah.
When it was cold, so things came back into the cold air.
Yeah.
And the hole that we dug, the size of a football field, 45 feet deep. And the earth, as we talked earlier, was not stable. It would cave in any other time of the year except winter, because then it would freeze and Mother Nature would hold the walls open for us. And so it was like Moses parting the Red Sea, you've got to get done.
The brown muddy sea.
Yeah, you've got to get done before spring, because then the hole closes, because it unthaws and it caves in. So you got until February, the end of February. 1st of March becomes not stable and not safe. Too warm then. So we start in November, and we dug 4 months, and we finished. Everything out. Every day we worked. But we arrived back with truckfuls of muddy things at 8 o'clock. And from 8 to midnight, we brought that stuff out of the truck and washed it and put them in boxes with waterproof liners, labeled each box saying, in this box, there's 25 shoes, or in this box, there's a harnesses for a team of horses, or in this box, there's fabric. And we would label it and freeze it. And we did that until the freezer was full. And then there was no more freezer space. So now for the rest of it, all the rest of the saddles and the shoes and all the leather things and the wood things, we had to find, we had to trick it somehow to think it was still buried. Yeah. Now down along the river, there's these caves that people have dug out.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so we rented some of that underground storage space. And in the cave, in the earth temperature, in the total darkness, we lined up the rows up with galvanized stock tanks, 10-foot across, like you'd water cows and stuff in. Rigged up a little deal. It would fill it with water and dump it. Fill it with water and dump it every couple of days to keep the water fresh.
Wow.
And underwater in the cave at earth temperature in total darkness, it did fine until we had the museum built and a freezer built big enough for us to, bring them out of the cave and begin to clean them and preserve them. And still to this day, 25 years later, we still have 10 more years to go of cleaning the Arabia collection.
I noticed that. It's a work in progress. Yeah. I was amazed by just the leather goods. It still looked amazing. You've got the Titanic that went down in 1912, 105 years ago. And it's still a different environment, saltwater, 12,000 feet deep.
Real cold, though.
But still, what you have is just remarkable. I mean, I've seen jodhpurs, I've seen cowboy boots, I've seen hats. Yeah. Hats.
It's the largest collection of wet organic material, leather and wood and such. It's been found in the world from one dig site.
So, the Malta. Yeah. I know that you have a time window coming up in the fall where you're going to have to look at the precipitation, all that, for what's coming to decide whether you're going to go or not. Did you miss it last fall? Or you just weren't ready?
It flooded last year.
Okay.
It was wet.
That's what I was wondering. Because I talked to you a little over a year ago, and you said, we had a window, and I figured you must have met it or missed it.
Yeah. Well, we chose not to pull the trigger on it because we were afraid of the flooding. The river ran high last year.
Yeah.
And it stayed high through it flooded in June of last year, and it just never went down.
It never went down.
So we were afraid that if it flooded again, it would get us. So we chose to wait.
So you got the farmer here and his wife. What's his name again?
Jim.
So Jim's planting this year.
Yep.
We doing beans or corn this year?
Well, we're doing a little of each. We're going to plant corn around the boat and beans elsewhere.
Are you kidding me? Really? Why is that?
Well, because corn comes out quicker. We can start sooner. Comes out in August, late August, 1st of September.
That is true, because they say knee high by the 4th of July.
Exactly.
A little slow, a little bit of wet this year. A little slow.
The rain we've had this last few days, the heavy rain we've had, got a little rain coming up. That river was flooding us. But in fact, the river stage was flooding in Waverly until Tuesday. It may have backed up into his farm. I don't know.
Well, I was noticing, I was driving south in Kansas and noticed there were some areas they didn't even bother planting because it was
too wet.
Forget it.
Yeah. No, he's got it planted. I talked to him this week, and he said he got the corn and the beans in.
How far is the boat from the river now?
1,500 feet.
It's not too bad.
No.
I think this is fascinating. I greatly, I'm honored you would be here on my podcast. We got about 400 people watching. It's going to grow dramatically. Trust me. We're sitting here at 6 o'clock. We start the thing at 6 o'clock, and people get the word out, and then we share it. And so people are going to see this, and I hope they're as fascinated. And I know they're going to be as fascinated as I am by what you do, David. I just think you're amazing. I think you're great. I hope you don't think I'm kind of like a stalker fan of yours, because I just think what you've done is so amazing. And again, I was inspired by the Bertrand when I was a kid, and just archaeology in general, Oak Island, the Titanic, all these things, all the Caribbean. Remember when I was a kid, the Caribbean, the gold finds, the Spanish galleons.
Yeah.
Oh, and the Vasa. We mentioned the Vasa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's great stuff.
I just have never had the cojones that you have to go, all right, let's do this. We're going to stop doing refrigeration. And not only are we going to dig up a ship, we're going to use our refrigeration units to preserve it. And I'm going to learn. Listen, I've learned how to make guacamole and fix houses and all this. You're the only person I've ever known who's dug up a ship that's 150 years old and saved the artifacts. I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing, dude.
Collection we're saving. What can I say?
All right. Now I do have your website up for the Steamship Arabia 1865 or 1856.com.
Yep.
This is pretty remarkable because that's 1856. We're talking 15 years previous for the Malta.
Absolutely.
One final note. What are you expecting, and what are you excited about when you dig up this that's 15 years previous to the Steamship Arabia that was epic?
We don't know a lot about the fur trade era. Okay.
Yeah.
For those who have seen the movie Revenant,
DeCaprio.
Yes.
Oh,
you saw the beginning of the story. You saw the mountain men in the wilderness bringing the furs out of the mountains, and later in time, they would bring those furs down those mountain rivers into the Missouri, and then down the Missouri and meet steamboats like the Malta.
Wow.
Okay. So you're going to pick up where that movie left off, and you're going to learn what it was that those fur trade guys, those mountain men, wanted to take back to the wilderness to trade with the Indians. And that's something we really, truly don't know a lot about. We know a lot, but there's so much more to learn. And the Malta will unlock that key to that greater knowledge of the fur trade of the 1840s.
Well, I think it's fascinating. It's fascinating. I wish you the best. I'm honored that you would be here. And again, we'll share the URL with you and your followers. For those of you who did watch, and plenty of you did watch it, it's growing dramatically as the evening progresses. Thank you for checking out the radio program, the video program tonight. David Hawley, archaeologist, the Indiana Jones of the cornfield of the state of Missouri, going after the Malta, discovered the Arabia. Thanks for joining me tonight.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, and thank all of your guests.
It's been an honor.
It's been a treat.
It's been an honor. All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, guys. We greatly appreciate, again, you checking out the show tonight. Again, this URL will be featured on not only Facebook, but also online at a variety of different websites, including the Arabia's website as well. So have a great evening. We will see you again very soon. Thank you for watching. I'm Rob Carson. David Hawley, thank you very much, and we will talk to you very soon.